displaying the glory of God's creation by exploring America one park at a time. Welcome to Parking Full Time with Big Dave, the parks professor. 10th hole. The par and distance are at the top of the screen. This is the longest hole on this course, and it's also the first of a total of 2 par 5s. We start out by going slightly downhill, but then we're going to dogleg to the left as we start following this sewer line clearing. There's also a creek off here to the right. I do want to welcome you back to Parking Full Time. I am Big Dave, the parks professor. We are at Shaver Recreation Complex. We are in Seneca, South Carolina, and so we are in upstate South Carolina. This complex has 2 18-hole disc golf courses. I did a walkabout of the original course a few months ago. This is the championship course. This fairway is wider than you would expect for a heavily wooded course, and most of this course is heavily wooded. The width is due to the sewer line clearing, as I already mentioned. This hole is long enough that I broke this clip up into 2 pieces, and that was just the transition there to the second piece. As we start doglegging back to the right, the basket is actually off to the right of the sewer clearing in a fairly tight and heavily wooded position. There's also the creek off to the right. You don't see too many par 5s in disc golf, but this is a worthy par 5. It's got plenty of length and plenty of tightness. This is a really well thought out hole. There's the basket, and there's the view back to the tee. Next comes one of the shortest holes on this course, which is the 11th hole. But this hole plays straight up a really steep hill. We're going to take our time climbing this hill here. Once you get past the tee pad, even just getting good footing for a good throw can be a real challenge here. Now, there aren't any obstacles directly between the tee and the basket. There are a few trees here, but they're pretty easily navigated. So the real challenge on this hole is the hill. And you see the basket here, it is cut right in the side of the hill. And there's the view back downhill, back to the tee. The 12th hole is a tunnel hole. It plays through this tight tunnel-like opening carved through the pine planting here. It's fairly tight, although this is wider than some other tunnel holes that I know. If you get off the fairway here, it's going to be a really tough recovery throw to get back towards the basket in only one throw. Again, this hole's fairly flat, fairly tight, and dead straight, but you don't want to wander off the fairway. There's the basket. And there's the view back up the tunnel to the tee. The 13th hole is another long hole. Most courses have mostly short holes with a couple of long holes thrown in. This course has a really nice mix of long holes and short holes. So if you like playing par 4 and par 5 holes, then you're going to really like this course. This is another fairly tight hole that stays through the pine planting. It starts by going moderately uphill, but then we're going to go more steeply downhill to get down to the basket. There is also a mando off here to the left, and so you have to throw to the right of this mando. I should say a word about the distances I'm giving you. Most holes on this course have 2 tees, a back tee and a front tee, and those are the 2 distances that I'm giving you at the top of the screen. When I came here, a couple of the tees were still under construction, but most of the tees were nice concrete tees, and overall this is a very well constructed course. Here's the basket. Again, there are a lot of trees you have to thread your disc around in order to get down here to the basket, so this is a short par 4, but a good par 4. The 14th hole is another short hole. It plays moderately downhill, and then crosses a small creek that is right in front of the basket. The creek is out of bounds, so if you throw it there, the best you're going to do is 3. There are also quite a few trees here, so this is also a fairly tight hole. They really do a good job on this course of mixing up the length of the holes, the mixing up the short holes and the long holes. We're going to jump across this creek now. And then we're right to the basket. This is really a pretty exciting hole, with the creek being out of bounds. The 15th hole may be the most unmemorable hole on this course. It is gradually uphill. It plays through dense woods on either side, and it's also a slight dogleg right. There's nothing really bad about this hole, it's just there's also nothing really memorable about this hole, unlike some of the other holes, especially some of the longer holes on this course. There's the basket and the view back to the tee. The 16th hole starts with a sharp dogleg only about 70 feet in front of the back tee, and all of these video clips start at the back tee. From the front tee, this is a fairly straight hole across a ravine, but from the back tee, you're going to have to really bend your disc from left to right in order to get around that dogleg. Once you get past the front tee, now we dip down through a fairly steep ravine, and so we're going to go fairly steeply downhill. There's a creek down at the bottom of this ravine, so we're going to jump across the creek, and then we're going to head fairly steeply back uphill to get to the basket. There is quite a smattering of trees going up this hill, and so you're going to need some really accurate throws in addition to some distance on this par 5. This hole is shorter than the first par 5, but it's definitely a worthy par 5. I captured this video on Thursday, January the 4th, and it was a chilly day with the temperatures in the low 50s when I came here. You see the basket up here. This basket is also located directly across a walking trail, and there is a walking trail that winds its way through several of these holes. There were a couple of times that I had to wait for pedestrians to clear before I could throw when I played here. The 17th hole is kind of a shorter version of the previous hole, except it's all moderately uphill, and the dogleg is not quite as severe. This is, however, another dogleg right. I do want to take this opportunity to thank you for watching. Parking full time would not be anything without the people who watch. I realize that every day, and therefore I thank you every day. There are a large number of small and medium-sized trees up here around the basket, so you really have to pick the right angle of attack and throw an accurate disc. You really have to hit your line in order to get up here close to the basket in only one throw, and therefore set up a birdie opportunity. 18th and final hole is another long hole. Now there's only one tee on this hole, but it is a par 5 if you're playing from the quote-unquote front tee, and a par 4 if you're playing from the quote-unquote back tee. Generally, I don't typically like that kind of arrangement, although I guess for one hole it's okay. This is a fairly flat hole. It plays slightly uphill, and it starts out in a heavily wooded area, but there is daylight when we get up here close to the basket. I also want to remind you that I do not take any monetary compensation for anything I do for parking full time, and therefore the only thing that I get for doing these videos and writing these disc golf course reviews are your likes, your subscribes, your views, and your comments, and I do appreciate all of those things. This is a really nice course, and it's actually one of my favorites in upstate South Carolina. There are two courses at Shaver Recreation Complex. The original course is okay, and it suits recreational play alright, but if you want to do some serious disc golfing with some longer holes, then this is the course for you, and I do really like this course. The basket is built up here on this little black pedestal similar to what we saw on the first basket, and so that makes putting a little more interesting. That is the end of the course. Have a great afternoon. Thank you for watching. Take care, and Lord bless.